Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Noah Knows, the Science of Health and Fitness. I am your host, the bearded bullshit buster and swolly scientist, Bruce Wayne, and today we're telling you everything you need to know about insulin and weight gain. All right, bud. So, how familiar are you with the insulin model of obesity?
Oh, I'm a complete expert on it. That's the stuff you put inside the walls of your house to protect you from the cold from outside, right? Nailed it.
Absolutely. Nailed it.
Insulin.
Yes. So,
No, I know nothing about it. I just know about when kids in school used to need the shots or whatever. Right? Was that or no?
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's it.
So, we're going to be discussing the correlation of insulin and weight gain. So, you may have seen some charts before in the past that show like the relative correlation in the increase in obesity in America, along with the correlating same increase in high carb diets.
Okay.
Basically, have you ever seen that image or heard something?
I've heard of it. I've probably seen it before. Since I was a kid. I'm sure they show that data all the time. I just don't. I don't stop to look at it. To be honest with you.
That's okay. All right. So, basically, what this study or this information seems to suggest is that the cause for the obesity epidemic is high carb diets or high insulin diets. So, we're gonna go over that. So. Just real simple, real fast. For those of you who don't know, insulin is a hormone that's secreted from the pancreas that lowers our blood sugar, right? So, like, let's say you eat some candy, right? And your blood sugar goes up. Pancreas releases insulin to bring it back down.
Gotcha.
Okay? So, when we eat something that causes our blood sugar to rise, this impacts not only our muscles, but our fat cells as well. So the reason why we see this this hypothesis that insulin may attribute or may be the cause of obesity is because we see high carbohydrate diets. People are eating carbs more than ever, right? Recently. And we know that the production of insulin actually decreases lipolysis. So what lipolysis is, this is the release of fat from fat cells. So fat cells can either expand or shrink. And when you eat carbohydrates or any type of sugar, blood sugar goes up, insulin is released, and it blunts the effect of fat loss, right? So and it actually increases fat storage, which is lipogenesis.
Okay.
So we see the blunting of fat loss and the increase of fat gain from insulin. So, I mean, you can start to see the picture, right?
Right.
However, that being said, current trends actually show that in the last 10 years or so, that average consumption of carbohydrates are starting to go down now, but obesity rates are continuing to increase.
Okay.
So, is it actually insulin? Right? Like, we have to explore this a little bit further.
A question, and I don't know if this is the same thing, just the other way around. When I was a kid, my uncle Jack took us to Florida. And I was like 13, and my brother and my cousin were the same age, and they were in the back of the car. And everybody fell asleep. Of course, not my Uncle Jack who was driving. But I remember him grabbing me by the arm to wake me up because he needed me to open a bag of M&Ms because he said his blood sugar was too low.
Yes.
Does that mean he's getting too much insulin, or is that completely not related? You know?
No, it is related, but that's something very different.
Okay.
All right? So, like, what we're discussing today is insulin in terms of healthy individuals, not diabetics.
That's the only time I've ever had to deal with blood sugar levels. So that's I just remember that fondly.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but before anyone else like starts to jump down my throat or in the comics and be like, "Oh, this is totally wrong information," we are not talking about people with a medical condition
Gotcha.
right now. We are only talking about people that are relatively healthy or in by most medical standards, in good shape.
Okay.
So,
I'm glad I asked that then, because that's what I was thinking. I thought it was a health condition. Okay.
well, yes, diabetes is a health condition where people they can either take medication or some of them get pumps to inject insulin into their body because their body either produces very little or none at all. But we're not going to get into that.
Okay.
That's totally different subject. But for you, right, when you exercise and you deplete yourself of blood sugars and maybe you get a little bit dizzy.
Oh,
right?
I've done that. I've done
Yes,
that.
right? And so, what you do is you go, you grab one of these because it's just sugar water and
Right.
electrolytes. That's a way of getting your blood sugar back up.
Gatorade, yeah.
Yes, yes. Yep. So,
Okay. Back on track.
yes, absolutely. All right. So here's one thing we need to consider here when it comes to insulin and why insulin really doesn't matter in healthy individuals, or it is proven not to be the cause of weight gain. And it's simply this. If insulin was the main driver of obesity, you could simply go on on keto. Yeah, you can go on cardio.
That's probably a good start.
Yeah, you could be keto and you would never be fat, right? We know that energy balance, or calories in, calories out, dictates if you're losing weight or gaining weight, right? If insulin was the main factor, keto, right, is a very low carb diet. So
Okay.
people are shown to have very low insulin levels, blood sugar levels with keto. Simply by going on keto, if this was the fact, you could eat unlimited calories and never gain weight, right? But we know that's not the
That's
case.
not true. Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, right? I mean, if exactly.
That would be
Exactly.
wonderful.
And there are plenty of overweight or obese fat people doing keto, right? So, first strike against the insulin model, okay? So, here's something else that we need to consider is that a lot of people don't actually realize is that protein gives the same insulin response in the body as carbohydrates.
Okay, say that one more time so I can follow.
So, all right, protein,
Okay.
eating lean, high amounts of protein produces the same insulin response in the body
Okay.
as carbohydrates do.
Okay.
Right? So, like,
It's not unique. The correlation isn't unique to carbs. Is what you're
yes.
saying. Okay.
Yes. So, if this was truly the case, simply by ingesting protein would continue to make you fat if insulin really did what people claim it does.
Okay.
Okay. So, like, a lot of times you'll see bodybuilders and people who work out, they'll eat cookies or they'll eat cereal or they'll eat some sort of high sugar, high glycemic, very processed carb after working out. And it's like, oh, like I want to do this to spike my insulin, right? Because spiking insulin after a workout is actually beneficial.
Okay.
However, again, like this, yes, it's true. That's what they're doing, but it's not absolutely necessary because we can remove all the carbs from that meal and still, if we're consuming enough protein, you're going to get the same insulin response. So again, we come back to the point of saying, carbohydrate insulin model of obesity.
Mm-hmm.
If insulin really was a fat driver, then you would get fat purely from simply from just eating protein
As well. Okay.
as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Damn, insulin's been getting a bad rap. It's probably like, dude, I'm not making you fat. I don't know why people think this. I'm glad that we're freeing insulin of its bad reputation.
And again, this we can come back to people that really wave the flag of keto as being amazing and be like, oh, this is a low insulin, low blood sugar, being keto, you can eat as much as you want. Well, again, like you're using it as an argument because it's low carb, right?
Uh-huh.
And if insulin really did what people claim it does for fat gain, if you're on keto, you'd never gain any weight.
Right.
Right. And then, because if you're doing one of the 3 different types of keto, yes, there are at least 3 different types of keto. If you're doing more like a modern or bodybuilding athletic form of keto where we have to adjust our protein much higher, right? You're still getting that same insulin response, even though you're completely moving your carbs away. So again, like that's strike 2
Yeah.
against that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here is something else we also need to consider when it comes to insulin. Now, earlier I said that the release of insulin blunts fat loss and it increases fat gain, right?
Okay.
The operative word there is blunts.
What does that exactly mean? Does it like stunt? Is that like saying stunt or enhance? I have no idea what blunt. I've used that word in other contexts. To be honest with you, but not as a verb.
So if you strike someone with a blunt object, what would that be?
Hard and solid?
Something that isn't sharp.
Something that isn't sharp. Okay.
Right? So like
Oh yeah, duh. Okay, so like dull.
yes, it dulls it, but it doesn't stop it, right? And so again, we need to make sure we define our terms here.
Yeah.
So it may slow down fat loss, but it does not stop, it does not negate it. At the end of the day, it's the overall calorie balance, energy balance that will still continue to dictate whether you're in a surplus or whether you're losing weight. So yes,
It's like a yellow light, not
Yes,
a red light.
absolutely.
It's like TSA.
Yep. So we can think of this like a scale, right? So let's say all things are equal. The scale is
Right.
here,
Balanced.
right? Balanced, right? And on one side we have if the scale is all the way tipped up, right, you're gaining weight. If the scale is all the way tipped down, you're losing weight. And then we have our insulin over here, right? We put that insulin on the other side of the scale, and let's say you eat high protein, high, very processed meal. Well, sure, it's going to start to bring up that other side, right? But it's never going to be enough to neutralize
get
that
back to
effect,
zero,
right? So
right.
we may have a shifting of the scale, slightly bringing it down and starting to move this up a little bit,
Right.
But it's never going to be enough to actually offset it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense.
Fantastic. I like that yellow light analogy, man. The
can have
car
it.
analogies are always money. For
You
this.
can have it. It's yours.
So, one of the other things we need to recognize here is that fat loss is a 2-step process, right? We have lipolysis, and then we have oxidation. Okay, so fat oxidation and fat loss are 2 very different things. Okay, so
Lipolysis. That's where they get liposuction from, right?
yes,
Okay.
there you go.
I'm just trying to bring it
Absolutely.
down to earth to us,
Yes.
us regular people here. Lipo. Okay. So they
Yes.
suck that stuff out when they do that.
Yes.
Okay.
So when you eat something that's dense, like high glycemic, you have an extremely high spike in insulin, right? But then you have a very acute and rapid descent back down. Okay.
Okay.
And what we see with people that say like they eat more fiber or they eat more complex carbs or they have lower amounts of protein in their diet, they will have a very slow, gradual rise, and then they have a very slow and gradual decrease, right? So it doesn't matter if the spike is big or you have a very slow curve. They both ultimately come back to the same point at the end, which is energy balance.
Okay.
Right? So you may have increased times of fat oxidation, right? So big spike, but then what happens is your body is very adept at regulating itself, and that's why detoxes are complete bullshit. You don't need it. Your body is fully capable of handling these things on your own. For every action, we have an equal and opposite reaction, right? So you may blunt fat loss during one of these meals, but what happens is you have the same and opposite effect where throughout the rest of the day in those other meals, the fat oxidation actually increases, so it continues to balance itself out.
Like tortoise and the hare.
Yeah.
Like they get there, they both get to the finish line.
Yes.
One's slow and steady, and the other one is.
Yes, absolutely. So, you seem to be a little pulled back in this episode from other ones.
No, I'm just trying to follow because I know nothing about insulin, so I'm genuinely listening and learning about from the beginning.
Yeah.
No, believe me, I'm in because I had no idea that those things were even related. But I'm just average person.
Yeah, and I mean, but that's exactly why we do this show, and that's exactly why we need information like this, is because people just hear like, oh, insulin is bad for you. You need to watch your insulin, and you need to do this diet, or carbs are bad for you because it spikes insulin, and it's actually it's not the case.
I found out that's what this show is genuinely about. What you do and what the people that your peers do, all those people you've had on the previous episodes and stuff, and of course the ones that you'll have on in the future. This is basically what you're doing is crushing paranoia. It seems that everything we talk about, you're like, it's bullshit. Don't worry about it. Just do the fundamental things, and you'll be fine or better or great.
Yes, yeah. For the normal person, insulin isn't really something that they should be worried about.
That's probably why I never really knew anything about it.
I mean, for a diabetic, I mean, like, it's something you do need to worry about, monitoring these things like that. But for the average person that hears carbs are bad for you because it's insulin and it stops fat loss and stuff like that, like, these are twisted distortions and perceptions of reality. It's taking a little bit of fact and then twisting it to meet your personal beliefs, right?
Right.
And
it's like, don't buy matches because your house can light on fire one day.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not the case.
Absolutely.
It's possible, but it doesn't mean it's likely.
The one of the best quotes I've ever heard about science is that science is always right, and it doesn't care about your beliefs.
Right. I've heard that too.
Right.
That's good. That's true. It's true. It doesn't matter. I heard it. I think I heard that recently.
And it's important to note that when we look at how science evolves, it's not to say that, oh, that science was bad or that science was wrong. It's we made a conclusion based off of the amount of evidence that we had at the time, right? And as we continue to learn and gain more evidence, we have a better understanding, right? So for a long time, that was the standard, right? We saw this massive incline correlated of high carb diets and insulin and obesity, all trending at the same rates in the same direction. But then with the low carb movement, we see people eating less carbs than ever before, right? A big decline in that, but we're still continuing to see obesity rise. And it's like, okay, something else is going on here, because correlation no longer equals causation at this point. Well, I mean, in most cases it doesn't, but we see a massive discrepancy. So it's, looking at the newest studies and continuing to educate ourselves. So guys, I just want to leave you with this one small little fact before you go, and it's that insulin is actually not even required to store any amount of fat, guys. So let us know what you think about the insulin and carbohydrate model of obesity. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time here with us. We'll see you on the next one, guys, and I love you.